Welcome back to Her Rules Radio. This is Alex Jameson. I am here with the great mind, the creator behind the Pink Mentor Network, Stacy Cassio. Hi, Stacy. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to speak today.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about, first of all, what's a mentor?
So it's interesting. I have this asked all the time, and I think it's just simply someone that we can learn from their experiences.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a boss, but it could be a boss.
Correct.
Or your boss.
Correct.
Is it better or worse to have your boss be your mentor?
So I think you do not burn any bridges in your professional career. And the more people that you can learn from, even if it's not the greatest of examples, you learn a lot from the tough times.
Oh, you can learn from other people's mistakes.
Correct.
Sure. Okay.
Correct.
Great.
And so I find that it's easy to learn when you're just observing, and then you mimic what comes naturally to you until it becomes authentic.
Okay, let's back it up a minute
Yeah.
here. You didn't come out of the womb knowing that you were going to help women find mentors?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, it took me 38 years to figure out why I was put on this earth, and then 2 years to believe it.
Okay, so 38 years, that's not bad. When did you first realize I need a mentor?
As soon as I started my career, I realized I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I need to learn from somebody else's example. And I've always been really good about watching what they do, good or bad, and does that work for me? And then how do I apply it to my own behaviors? And so that was something that just came naturally to me. But what I realized in setting up our mentorship model was it isn't something that is natural for most folks.
No. Why isn't it?
I think because it's unstructured, it's a little bit gray area. You don't really know what a mentor is. Everybody has a different definition. So the first thing we had to do when we came up with the mentorship model is, what is it, first of all? And then how can we build a framework so you know who to look for and you know how to grow that relationship from somebody who will, take your calls to somebody that will bring you to the table and create opportunity for you.
Yeah, okay. So what was your first job where you're like, I need a mentor?
So it was probably actually not my first professional job. So when I was 19, I was a nanny in New York, and I had never been in a city. I came from Kansas, the middle of nowhere, Kansas. My hometown didn't even have a stoplight.
Okay.
So to do city things that was totally foreign to me. I had zero idea how to do any of those things. So I started watching other people, and then I would just follow their example until it became authentically mine. So I had this behavior long before I ever knew it was a business.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So, learning by other people's example and not being creepy while you watch them.
Right. But I have learned how to just kind of, so it's interesting. My second professional job, I was a investigator. So I worked for a surveillance company.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I guess
hilarious.
I got good at that. I never put that together.
I really
Thank
picked
you.
up on that,
Yeah.
didn't I? I'm really good at watching people. How can I get paid to do this?
Right.
That's great. So this idea of the Pink Mentor Network, it took a while for it to form in your mind.
Correct.
And this goes back to there's this great series on YouTube. Can't remember the guy's name who created it, but it's called Everything is Remix. And it's all about how art and all creative ideas and innovation is based on something else. And then the legal issues of copying somebody versus iterating and adding to. And his point was, throughout nature, throughout all of human history, we learn by copying. And then we add something else to it to create something new.
Yeah, right. Nothing is a brand new idea anymore. It was always influenced by someone else. And what I found is when I connect the dots of two influences, something really brilliant happens.
Okay, so you had all these different ideas swirling around. You watched, from a young age, you watched how people did things so that you could learn how to do things. And then you started to investigate people professionally, which really tickles me. And then through that investigating, you started to come up with rules and like a blueprint?
Yeah, it was more, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I was standing around people who I thought highly of. And then they would bring me into the next opportunity in my career. So I never had to look for a job because my mentors were tapping me on the shoulder and saying, hey, come with me. And that happened up until the point that I was 38. And I just never realized what a gift that was.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting because that is quite a topical subject
Yeah.
right now. Some of the numbers that you provided, 80% of women say they would switch employers if they felt another company had greater gender equality. 31% feel they have as many or more opportunities than men at their current companies, which I thought was really interesting. But what I wonder is the power structure, let's call it the white male patriarchy, because I got to bring up the patriarchy in at least half of my shows, continues to stay the way it is because we do have this tendency to mentor people, right? Like people are always looking like who can they bring up behind them, but we tend to bring people up behind us who look like us and think like us. So if white men are in power, they're going to continue to mentor young white men.
Yes. And the data shows that men are more likely to ask for mentorship than women. Women are hesitant to ask for sponsorship, which is one of the levels of mentorship, which is the highest level. And that's the one that unlocks opportunity. And it's just a fear of the ask. And so what I'm hoping will come from creating a framework of how to do it is that goes away. And there's a shift in the mind that mentorship is not, you shouldn't be fearful of asking. Rather, the mentor will actually extend their legacy if they give to us and become part of our story. And so I completely agree with you. The other thing that I noticed early on in my career is men were more likely to mentor me.
Interesting.
I had a lot of strong male mentors and very few female, especially as my career advanced. And I think it was sort of that there were few women in those rooms. And so if there's only one opportunity for us, we're not going to give away all of our secrets to the women coming behind us because they're coming for our position.
That's the impression.
Correct. And I'm seeing that change and shift. And I think this conversation actually helps a lot with that.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened as a kind of after the Me Too movement is men were hesitant to mentor women.
Which, I'm sorry, can we just talk about that for a moment?
Sure.
Because I've heard this idea thrown out on major stages.
Yes.
I think Tony Robbins and one of his dudes on stage actually got into a bit of fire for this, saying, well, now men are afraid to work with women. I'm like, dude, what are you doing that you're afraid to work with women? It's not them, it's you.
Right. And so I like to arm women with this framework because if mentorship isn't a gray area anymore and the male mentors know exactly why we're approaching them, it takes out some of that, I don't want to get myself into trouble or that like fear of helping. And so it's been great to give people a language around it.
This is reminding me, tell me if you've heard this before. This is reminding me of how women are really taking ownership over dating and sexual relationships. Like we can't go into a relationship and expect guys to know our bodies better than we do, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to know ourselves. So in a way you're helping women arm themselves with a format, like know what you need, know how to ask for it.
Exactly.
So you can get what you want.
100%.
Yeah.
You don't get if you don't ask.
So, I mean, maybe it's so obvious I can't see it, but why is it so hard for us to ask?
I think there is this fear of no. So, the person may say no. And so one of the things that I did to kind of think about that differently was I made my signature line behind the program, I've never met a woman I couldn't learn from. And the idea being anyone had mentorship for me. I didn't care what their experience was. I didn't care what their education was. They had valuable experiences that I could benefit in knowing. And so when I approached it as everyone has a gift, the no's didn't matter because there was always more. And so I think there is a scarcity mindset. There's I'm not worthy, like in many, conversations we have with women, our worthiness. Once you realize you are worthy and anyone can help you get to where you're going, it's really freeing.
Yeah. So is the fear of hearing no, if I get a no when I ask for mentorship, it's just evidence made clear that I am truly not worthy?
Yeah, I think it definitely makes that case.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying.
It is. And it's hard to say it out loud because it's like, oh, it feels silly, but it's so deep.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So that's one, I'm assuming that's one of the patterns that you see women in the mistakes that we make,
Yeah, so
or the challenges we have to overcome in getting mentorship.
So this whole idea came from my own need that I needed a mentor and I needed to know what I was looking for. Well, that built this community of amazing women that had the same need. And so from that, I started realizing that there were certain things we were doing, all of us. And if I could do something about the patterns, build a strategy around how to combat that,
Yeah.
I would be able to create a business. And so that's where the model came from, is recognizing these mistakes we were making. And yes, one of them is that we show up with our baggage before a mentor. So you get a coffee with somebody you think is more experienced and you bring all of the bad stuff from your career. And you're like, here, you dump it right in front of them and say, figure this out.
Worthless.
Yeah. And a mentor is very different than a coach. So the mentor is not getting paid. The mentor is just someone who believes in you and they want to invest their time in you. So when we show up with our baggage, they don't know what to do with that because they're not, by nature, a coach.
Right.
Or by trade. So it makes it very difficult. And they just kind of like back off. Whoa. But I noticed if we showed up with our vision for what was next, people of great experience would help you get there.
Okay. That's interesting. Now, there's another, I didn't think we were going to talk so much about fears, but there's another one that keeps popping up in my mind that I suspect women experience, which is the fear of people saying yes and then us owing them something.
Sure. Yes. So one of the things from the mentor side is I had to make it a format where it wouldn't add another relationship to someone's plate because we're so overwhelmed with our own commitments and our own relationships that we feel guilty all the time for not doing enough.
All the time in every single way with all the people we know. Yeah.
Exactly. So I had to create a skill or develop the skill for folks on what is a mentor. It's not another relationship on your plate. It is someone who will meet with you and then you do the work. It's up to you as the learner to make sure that you do the work, apply it to wherever you're going. And the thing that women don't do enough is report back.
Ah, interesting.
So we need to report back to whoever gave us that tip, that whenever we apply it, like, hey, that worked for us. Because then the mentor looks at you and I'm going to invest again.
Yeah, they did.
I'm going to keep going. This
Right.
person's doing something.
Right.
I mean, how many times do you get that, email for, hey, can I pick your brain? It's so aggravating.
I can't do it anymore. Like,
Yes.
if someone wants to pick my brain, if all the people that wanted to pick my brain did, I'd have no brain left.
Exactly. But what if I said, I want to ask you for 15 minutes of your time on a commute home one day and just ask you how you started your podcast?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Happy
15
to.
minutes.
Yep.
I'm commuting anyway.
Yeah, totally.
Make it easy
Right.
for the mentor.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. So let's talk to me a little bit about how you and the Pink Mentor Network have a new model of mentorship.
Yes.
Because as you're talking about it, I'm like, oh, well, you just call up, somebody that your dad knows or somebody boss of your old boss, and you ask them to tell you something. But there's a model.
Correct. So as I mentioned, we were identifying the patterns, and there were 6 different pain points in a career or business where mentorship really helps you.
Okay.
And those are anytime you are beginning something, anytime you're stepping up and leading something, anytime you want to be an expert at something, anytime you want to innovate, anytime you want to grow, and then my most favorite mentor is the person that helps you to survive, because entrepreneurship is scary and you need somebody besides your mom and your best friend to say you can do it.
Yes. That's excellent. I love it. So there's 6 different categories. And I'm assuming one person could fulfill more than one of those spots.
Correct.
Okay. So you don't need like 6 different, and it might be 20 different people.
Correct. So the model works. Imagine 6 different columns. So that's where those categories belong at 3 different levels. So 3 levels high. So 3 rows. And those are informal, formal, and sponsor. And the informal folks, you may never know. So you're getting influences all the time about where you're going. It's inspiration, it's foundation. It might be books, podcasts, but it's things that ground you and remind you why you started and where you're going. And then the formal mentors are what we traditionally think of as mentorship. So they're the folks who you ask for a coffee and they have answers to your questions, but they don't have an experience with you where they can apply it directly to what you're doing.
Okay.
Sponsors have that experience. So they have great experience about where you're headed, and they can apply it to your blind spots, your strengths, your weaknesses, because they know you very well.
That's very cool. So who is one of your like informal sponsor mentors?
Yeah.
Like somebody's book or like some.
Oh, it's actually really funny. So I have a lot of them, and they range from everything from a podcast that I listen to a book, to a conversation I had one time with the founder of Jenny's Ice Cream. But my favorite is the book reference, because it is actually Howard Stern. And
Amazing.
wrote a book called Howard Stern Comes Again. And it's the transcripts of all of his interviews with celebrities. And being the geek I am, I dissected those. And I looked for what makes people spill their guts. Because if we want the mentorship from a woman's career, we need to know how to uncover the secrets, the difficulties, the challenges.
Yeah.
And there were certain techniques he did in every single interview just before they
Amazing.
spilled their guts. And
That's
I was
awesome.
Yeah. And so that was really helpful when I was doing the events where I was interviewing women for that type of information.
That is so awesome. I have 2.
Yeah.
One is akin to Howard Stern. It's Dee Snider, the lead
Yes.
singer from
Yes.
Twisted Sister.
Yes.
Because that dude has had a crazy career
Yes.
and like extreme successes and extreme bottoms.
Yes.
And the lessons that he shares are just awesome. Dee, if you're listening, I love you. And then the other one is Dolly Parton.
Oh my gosh, yes.
She should be every woman's informal, aspirational.
I feel like she's had a resurgence lately too. She's everywhere.
Everywhere.
That's great. Yeah.
Because she's like the one celebrity everybody loves.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what your politics are, everybody loves her.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
she brings us together.
Right.
And she's a brilliant businesswoman.
Agreed. Totally agree with that.
So, Dolly, if you're listening, I love you so much. Okay, let's talk about, I would love to hear a success story of a woman who found a mentor or who went through your blueprint of mentorship. What can you share with us?
Yeah, so it's been really cool to watch women launch their entrepreneurial aspirations. So jumping into freelance and knowing, okay, you need someone to help you get started.
Yeah.
You need someone to help you find your voice. You need to stand next to somebody who is an expert. And then you need somebody that will help you to be relevant and innovate. And then how do you find clients? Well, yeah, I've got to find somebody to grow. And then how do you survive? Luckily, she's a great woman, and she calls me regularly to ask me, is this normal to be to be doubting my entrepreneurial dreams? And I'm like, yes.
Every day?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. But I have seen a lot of women use this to launch whatever their dream might be, because it just helps you feel like you have like support.
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing that there's a way to find answers to the questions and challenges, which inevitably, by the way, they come over and over and over again throughout your career. I've been doing this 20 years. And every time you want to grow or pivot, it's a whole new system. It's a whole new education.
So that's the beauty of this model, is each time your next changes, the faces need to be reevaluated, because it might take somebody new to open that opportunity.
Yeah.
And in my own personal network, so I'm going through now an investment stage. So I'm looking for investors to help me to build this to be a digital platform that goes beyond Charlotte. And I don't know anything about investing, but I have great folks who are helping me find that.
Yeah.
They're helping me with my deck. They're just massive support in getting into the next stages.
That's so cool. Very cool.
And I love the beauty of now they're attaching themselves to my journey. So it's wonderful to watch that shift where I don't feel like I'm asking as much anymore as people want to be a part of something really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. I'm curious, because you are based in Charlotte. How do you serve women outside of Charlotte?
Yeah, so we launched the online model of Pop-Up Mentor. And so it is a 6-month comprehensive, let's get your mentors in line. So it's first an evaluation of who you have, and then understanding what you need. And the great part about structuring it like this is we can identify where those people might be. Based on what you're doing. We can also look at what questions you need answered.
Okay.
So we give you all of that verbiage.
Cool. Very cool. And if there's let's say there's a woman who wants to, we've been talking about entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I think in my own mind, I immediately go to, we're like online entrepreneurs, service-based. But there's people who want to have a shop.
Yes.
Or they want to create a product.
Yes.
That people buy a physical thing.
Yes.
And this could serve them also,
100%.
right? Yeah.
This can also serve folks in the corporate world, because
Of course.
you are looking for examples of success in your field, whatever that might be.
Yeah. And and you mentioned the pop-up mentor model. This is what you described earlier.
Correct.
Okay. So you take women through this whole intake and this course, and you think about all the people in your life. And what if you don't know anyone that can fulfill one of the spots that you need? How do you?
So the cool piece about the online structure is there's also a community aspect to it. And so when you don't know someone, or you're looking, as long as you know what's next, the community can help you fill in the blanks.
Okay.
So we can point you in the right directions, and then a warm introduction usually to that formal mentor is all it takes.
That's
as long as you
really
ask their
interesting.
coffee. You know who you're looking for, and you're not planning to take a bunch of their time.
Yeah, that's so cool. So as you said earlier, you said it took me 38 years to figure out why I was put on this earth, and 2 years to learn that I was worthy. What were those personal challenges that you had to get through in those 2 years?
Oh, there were so many. But now looking back, I realized they were challenging at the time, but more it was data for what I needed to get to today. So like I said, I ended up in New York and had to find a community here. And then I ended up moving to Charlotte and had to find a community there. And the challenges, I think some of the mistakes I made early on, like I said, I never applied for a job, but I was able to follow a mentor. And what I did in that, and I caution women not to do, is blindly follow someone.
Oh, can we talk about that?
Yes.
We put so much of our power, we give it away to
Oh,
other
yeah.
people.
Yes. So I
have done that, by the way, just
me
to
too.
highlight how many times I've been like, I don't know, you tell me what to do. I'm going to abdicate all of my intuition to somebody else.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I say we have to start with what we want next. Because if you don't have that piece, and it's okay to give yourself grace and permission to explore if you don't know.
Yeah.
That's fine. But know that you're not going to find the people to help you get to the next level. Like, no one has that answer but you.
Yes.
And I followed people into jobs that weren't necessarily a good fit for me. And now I realize that I was just helping them advance their careers.
Yeah, that clarity piece, that self-knowing piece.
Yes, huge.
Yeah. So as you are building and growing and stepping into new spaces, I know from my own work coaching women for 20 years that our physical well-being and our emotional centeredness is so important for us to succeed over time.
Yes.
That we need energy and we need physical vitality to make it all happen. So what, if any, challenges have you had just around taking care of yourself, and what do you commit to now?
Yeah, it's something I didn't do very well in the early days of entrepreneurship. So I'm introverted by nature.
Me too.
I need to unplug for a little bit in order to be able to serve others. And I had that reversed in the beginning. I was serving others thinking it would feed me, but that is not the case. And so now I've set certain hours that it's my time, and it's for the benefit of my business. And I need that time just to become centered again and find the energy to go back out and serve others.
Yeah. That alone time. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
So
And I know when I don't have it, I'm totally depleted. It's very hard to pay attention. I'm just having a very difficult time. And the other thing that I have learned to do, I actually schedule time to dream.
What does that mean? What does that look like?
To think bigger than the tasks that I have on my to-do list. So it means exploring, it means daydreaming, it means writing, it means thinking beyond everything that's asking for my time and attention. So sometimes what I'll do is somebody famous that I've been just really having a celebrity crush or expert crush on, I'll send them an email, or I'll just do something that also seems like it could open another door. You never know. So I just go knocking on doors randomly sometimes, hoping that somebody will answer them.
Who have you sent a daydream email to?
Seth Godin, I have sent an...
I love him so much.
It worked too.
Stop it.
I got to present with him last fall. And so it's just so fascinating how...
What happened?
So I attended his All-MBA program several years ago.
Of course. I have like 5 friends who have done that.
Really?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It actually planted the seeds of this for early on.
So cool.
Yeah. I was going through the program when I planned the first event.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was huge.
I love it.
It was huge. And so I just sent him a thank you and said, you planted the seeds for my dreams. And I think no matter how famous you are, when you hear something genuine and how you've really made a difference in someone's life, it always feels good.
Oh, we're all human in that way.
Agreed.
Right? We just want to know that what we're doing is making a real difference to somebody.
100%. And so for 2 years before I had my own business, I was off of social media. That's how introverted I was.
Oh my goodness.
It was great. It was
that
wonderful.
Sounds so dreamy.
Peace of mind was wonderful. And so it was really difficult in the early days to think that the interactions that you see there, you can't judge yourself based on those results. But when I get a handwritten thank you from a member that what I did was meaningful and has helped her, and the tools that she needed to get to her next thing, that's huge.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And by the way, keep those.
I do.
Keep the letters, keep the fan emails, because there are going to be moments when you're like, I'm horrible at this. I suck.
Yes.
I'm failing. I'm never going to get what I want next. And then you go read an old email from someone who like took a program 3 years ago, and you're like, aw, I helped somebody.
Yes.
All
and
right.
then to watch where they've gone. Like that's really cool too.
Yeah.
I actually take a screenshot of it, favorite it in my phone, and then I have a favorites
Me too. That's exactly what I do.
wonderful.
It's so good. We
really-
all need reminders.
It crushes self-doubt. It's really great.
Yeah, so important. That's awesome. Okay, so, the show's called Her Rules Radio.
Yes.
So this is where women and the men who love us and people who identify as women come to learn to live life by their own rules. So we are rule breakers and we're rule makers. So what is a rule that you really try to live by?
So a couple things. Humility opens doors, but boldness walks through.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, it reminds me to stay humble in the ask and then boldly walk through whatever door opens and seize the opportunity.
Yeah. So humble, like I'm going to ask this thing and it's going to be from my heart. And
Correct.
if they say no, like it's okay.
I won't take it personally.
Right. Got it.
But I'm going to genuinely tell them how much I admire their work or what it meant to me, and then have an ask of how they did it, and really, because I really want to learn and apply it to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so that has always been one. The other thing that I think I've learned is that the harshest critic always lives in the mirror.
Oh, so true. So true, except the vegans when they wanted me to die. They were the harshest critics. I had to start eating meat again after being vegan for like a decade.
Got it.
And writing a bunch of books about it.
Got it.
And they were very, very critical. Yeah, way more critical than I could ever be of myself. Okay, so one last question.
Sure.
What is a rule that you see people living by? Shoulds, old antiquated rules that people aren't even questioning that you think we should rewrite or get rid of completely?
I love that question. So I think that higher education needs to change.
Oh, yes. Tell me everything.
Yes. So we are no longer giving people that, keeping them curious. We're giving them what they need to learn. And I think part of what I have done and my entrepreneurial spirit is I've always had a quest for more, and no one was going to fill that. So I was always going to be searching and looking for ways to create something new. And I think we just have to, first of all, we are dumping thousands of dollars into a career that we may not like.
Hundreds of thousands.
Correct.
For some people.
Correct. We need to do a better job of helping folks know what they're making that investment on. And it is, because it will definitely put you in the hole. So it's a rule that I challenge. Why are you going to formal education when there are so many opportunities to learn these days?
Yeah. Hashtag vote blue. I'm just going to be political about it. Like, let's vote for the people who are trying to get rid of all this educational debt. Let's get rid of it. Totally easy to do. Let's make education free for more people. And the World Economic Forum just last year released, they do this like skills that are necessary in the next 10 years study every once in a while. And 3 of the top 10 skills that they see are going to be more and more important: creativity, empathy, and leadership.
None of which are taught in education.
Really not taught in education.
No.
Thought that was fascinating.
I also, I am the oldest of 4, and my siblings are all educators. And it just makes me so angry that we are not paying the people who are building this future generations of leaders more. That is, what we invest in gets stronger, and we are not investing in those teachers.
Half my family, public school educators.
Yeah.
Hardest working people I've ever known.
Agreed.
Oh my goodness. All right. We could talk for another hour, but we got to wrap it up. Thank you so much for being here. I want to send everybody to your website, which is pinkmentornetwork.com. What's your Instagram? That's where I hang out the most.
Yeah, sure. So it is Pink Mentor Network also.
Awesome. Stacy, Cassio, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.